Hello everybody and welcome back. This is part 6. If you haven't checked out at least part 4 where I start this mech, and then part 3 where I start this mech and block it out, and you want to follow along, go ahead and do so. Not necessary if you just want to learn some texturing techniques and some easy ways, and we're going to unveil one of Blender's dirty little secrets that it doesn't show anybody unless you go find it. So you got to go up to edit and go to preferences, type in material. You'll have the material library and the material utilities experimental. You can turn them both on if they're not already. Then we'll come over to the addon, okay, and you'll be ready to put something in the scene here and kind of make it look like what we want. And we can see from the previous video where we left off right here, and I want to put in a building right back here. You can hit shift, it'll perfectly square it. Let go of the left mouse, let go of shift, bring it up, and if you hit shift again, it makes a perfect cube. All 6 sides are the same. Up to you if you want to do it that way. Click the cube, new material, scan all the way down, and you'll see the material library. Just open this up, drop down menu, go to sample materials. Come back here. Where'd you go? And what we want to do is come up here and we'll grab the building. Okay, it's like a little facade, and you can just apply that to the selected, and we can jump into edit mode, grab the top face, G and Z, and you can build this up and down as you wish, as you see fit. And so we got one really big, building completely textured in the background in like 30 seconds, right? And so now you can rinse and repeat this process. Very fun with the addon. So if you want to just, draw in here, and maybe there are some little buildings in here as well. I've got an add-on for creating street lights and everything. It's really fun, really cool. And so if I want, I can just, let's get back into object mode and just shift right click all these, control L, and link those materials, and now you've got this little makeshift city in the background. And if you wanted, you could pull open the shader editor and see how it was done. Now you can play around with the glossy. I think you can play around with the glossy roughness a little bit, change that as you see fit so it's not so reflective. Do whatever you want, change around with some of the colors. We've got a brick texture, very fun. I've actually played with the brick texture. It does a ton of things. You can actually scatter with IA scatter, which I have tutorials on with the brick texture, and it's a very cool sci-fi result, just to throw that out there. And so now if you wanted to add another material, and I'm just going to come down here and grab these little dots here. See how many is 8 dots? Whatever, doesn't matter. Just bring that all the way to the top. And you could conceptually just go File and go to Default, Startup, and save that as a startup file. And it's going to bring up the same version every time. You could even make save points like that. So when you open Blender, your scene opens, and I would suggest you don't, have anything in the viewport when you do that. But I did, no big deal. And if you are going to do that, make sure it's in object mode, not in a texture mode. Otherwise, it's going to really lag your computer. But I just think it's fun to kind of start the computer that way. So we left off with shape language and stuff like that matches all the way across. And then we have some more abstract things as we go down. It kind of matches the feet and everything else. And we'll work on that some more, but we can modify the mesh with these type of textures afterwards and not hurt anything. So let's just say we want to have a nice little starry background, potentially. Shift D on that plane, right click, drop it, G, Z. Let's bring it up. Take up a top view, G and Y. I'm just going to keep everything looking good. I'll scale it up. It's a lot of extra geometry. I don't really need that at all. I'm just playing with it at this point. I'm going to rotate that up. And we're on materials, so let's jump back down. Oops, I did it to myself. Okay, so material is up here, and we want to grab something called stars and apply that to the selected. And now we have this nice little starry background, and we hit 0. And we could pull this off because we don't ever want our object to be completely in the center of the camera anyways. And come over to the rendered view and take a look at that. We got these nice little stars in the background, and so it looks semi-realistic, and it really affected the lighting too, so you got to be careful with that, but I think that's cool. So now we've got something set up. Now let's start grabbing pieces of the mech, and I'll go back over to the EV engine. I'll / just to isolate it so we can kind of see what we're doing. And I think there's one in here galvanized, and I really like galvanized steel. So let's apply that to the selected, and it's compiling that shader. Oh yeah, see, that's really nice. But galvanized, that is not good. And I'll tell you why that's not good. Because we need to have some mapping so we can kind of play with the scale. Let's see. Oh, here we go. So there's a scale node on here, but it's really low. So I want to bring that up considerably because this would be a very large piece of metal. And those pieces would not be that big. They would be machined much smaller. I've worked with tons of galvanized steel. So let's see. I would really like to see a bump on here. Let's see, can we get away with this? Can I put a bump directly into the displacement and then pull a noise texture? You know, it's funny. I've never even thought of that until just now, but we're going to give it a shot. Let's see. Let's move in and let's play with the scale. Doesn't look like it wants to work that way. All right, instead of fooling with that, let's just put in a principal BSDF, and we'll drop it right here, and then above it we'll put an add shader. Okay, so, and I don't give anybody any information here. Just jump right into the texture nodes. But if you don't know how to work them, this is not the right tutorial for that. I've got another tutorial for it. So let's see here. We got some values that are going to definitely change, so I can bring down that. And I want to bring my noise texture here. And the cool thing is you can box select, hit G, and move stuff, and then zoom in. And so I really want to bring the bump into the normals here and see if it's going to work for us. I know there's a way to do it the opposite, but it's not working out right now. Yeah, okay, so here we go. The distortion can kind of come up, the detail can go up, and I would say if there's a texture coordinate in here, doesn't look like it. So let's pull the vector out. Left click, drop, and we should be able to type in MPP, mapping. Let's go to vector, type in COOR for texture coordinate, and we want to change the object, how it is projected. So we're going to bring, well, it's compiling. Got to give it a second. Go object to vector, which is going to change, and we can modify things later without messing up the texture itself. Now I can bring the scale up or down a good little bit. Can bring the strength up and down. It's just to give it that little roughness. And kind of figure the detail could be high, but so I was looking for something a little bit more grainy, but I think this will work good. So we could then invert that bump map, and let's see how it looks. That's not too bad. See, now it looks machined, and you get like a little free fakery going on there. It looks a little bit more machined, and so that's what we were going for. And so now you could technically leave it that color and that type of shader, and then you could go through and just right click and then Control L, link those materials, and then that'll work for a bunch of these, and you can have a nice two-tone battle mech. That could actually use an overlay, and I may do a separate video. In fact, I'm more than likely going to do a separate video with Philogix PBR Painter Pro, so that way those users can go in and I'll show you guys how to make some really cool textures, and we'll kind of play around with the AO so that, you know, rust, paint chips, and things like that will end up in the occluded areas. That would be the AO. and the curvature maps will be baked automatically. So really cool stuff. But we're just going to keep this one super basic because it's already 5 videos, so I'm not trying to run everybody out of town. All right, so let's do something fun here, and what we're going to do is we're going to select these rings. I didn't do this in the last one, but I'm going to select these rings and jump into edit mode and just select each one. Should be doing the other side as well. Yeah, so it is. Okay, and just checking that by going to the mirror modifier and turning on the on cage. Doesn't have to be on. I'm trying to minimize resources here because the scene's going to start getting a little heavier. Don't necessarily want that. Now, let's do something and Control B, and let's hold down Shift, and let's pull in a little bevel here. No, right click, drop that. Don't want that. So I'm going to add a loop cut to the center of each one of these. Go into Edge Select, grab each one, Control B, and now that's good. So I'll hit Q and I'll extrude faces along nominals, hold down Shift, and I'm going to bring that inside. Okay, go back to Face Select with that selected, and it just switches to faces. You don't have to do anything. Let's come back over here. Let's give it a new texture. And then we'll click and add another one to the canister. Click New. And we'll call this one Glow 1. And hit Enter. Then come down here and grab Fresnel. Let's see, where did it go? I'll just type it in. No, is it not working out? All right, so I had to Control Z back a bunch, actually, because I didn't realize I had clicked the remove material. I removed Fresnel, so be careful. Don't try to remove it that way. Click the little minus here. I think I just need a little bit more coffee, and I am drinking some coffee right now, so hang on. Ugh, that is good. Nespresso is the way to go, guys. Just saying. All right, so this one is Glow 1. I want to assign that, okay? And now in my quick favorites, if you followed along from the very first video, you will have an invert set up right away. So I'm going to go to the material, and I will just call this Arm Base 1, because I may add more. And I'm going to assign that one. So if I'm in the Material tab here, you will see the right textures assigned. Okay, so Fresnel is the one I actually want to apply that to the selected. All right, so I went back just now and kind of reworked a couple things, and what I really like for this would be the glow glass down in here. And so I'm going to apply that material, bring up the glow glass and assign that to here, and then do the invert and assign this material to the outside, and then I can pretty easily identify the other material just for now. Just leave it some weird color. And so I want to work on this, so I'll pull the shader editor back up, and let's get up here and just remove anything that's not necessary. So with the glow glass, there's a nice little shader set up here. Change the color to whatever you want, but we'll definitely pull the emission strength up, put it to whatever color you want. Always kind of going for that darker orange glow, if you will. Something like 30 usually stands out pretty nice. If I take that camera angle and come back over here, and then I got this peach color that's kind of dragging the scene down. Let's do something like this and make that gray for now. Yeah, okay, so that shows up. It's not super apparent, but it's ominous. It looks menacing. And so that's what I was kind of going for with this setup. All right, bring that back down. And I switched to the solid view when I'm getting ready to make big adjustments. Because if you have a slower PC and you try to switch back and forth between cycles in Eevee, forget it. It's just not very fun. All right, so that looks pretty good, and it is on the other side. So I took this material off, And the reason I did that is because I found something that I like a little bit better. So if you go up to brushed metal, and then we'll apply that one to the selected. I really like this one because it gives you some pretty cool options. See, where did that thing go? There it is. It gives you some really cool options to kind of modify it. So you can play around with the scale, which I don't think that does much for us, but the roughness is pretty cool. So you have a kind of a two-tone roughness going on, so you can mess around with that. The anisotropy for this, I think those adjustments are so slight, I don't think you're going to notice it. I wouldn't mess with that. That's just usually how you can throw light to the front or back on certain objects like glass. So yeah, you got a rotation. But anyways, you got a couple features there. It looks kind of good. I don't have a problem throwing that on a lot of my base pieces. And then I'll just left click and apply those materials. Yeah, I think that just does a little something better for us. And so the rest of these pivot points, okay, pretty much all of them, and even the entire mech actually could get this next one. I am excited about this. This is an anodized metal, so if I apply that to the selected, and I could come in here and I could play around with, let's see, where is this thing calling itself red? Yeah, right about here. Okay, so I could probably go with something kind of golden, but I'm really not going to do that. I'm going to stick to that kind of grayish. Oh, we got so many of these in here. Let me just kind of minimize that. Actually, I could just delete that. We'll give it a second to recompile. So that looks pretty good. Nice dark. Okay, so anodized metal. What is that? Well, it's treated and coated many times. It's an electrical type of paint, like they paint it electrically. Let's go check this out. Anodized, to coat metallic surface electrolytically with a protective or decorative oxide. It prevents corrosion and it lasts a very long time. And they do that to aluminum a lot of the time. They do that to aluminum. I just want to look a little bit more gray. So you can play around with the color ramp. You've got some cool stuff in here you can mess with. You could hit, if you know anything about the nodes, you can right click on one of these and hit tab and do the breakdown and see what's in there. Maybe you could change something if you want to. I think it looks really good the way it is, and to get it anodized like that, just straight up, that's pretty important. So I would grab pretty much every single pin and shift right click. I'm going to grab every single pin. Let's see, that looks pretty good, and the head can actually be anodized for the most part, but we're going to change some stuff. So Control L, and I will link those materials to themselves apparently. Here we go. Let's try that one more time. So now all of those are the anodized material, and if I change this material a little bit, and I want to maybe brighten it up, which I do, it'll brighten up all the other ones at the same time, which is really useful because you don't want to try to multi-tone this stuff. It's going to be very big pain in the neck. All right, so the top piece here, I want to grab these pieces and the feet. I don't want too many different colors, and I will Control L and link those materials. And then I got these little spin rods in here, which I think can definitely stand to just go with that material. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It looks good. It's slightly metallic two-tone. So let's see here about these. Didn't do a whole lot with these in the last video. I did have a plan for them, and the plan included kind of taking the skin off of this and going into, yes, it's going to be hard to do that now, because I wanted to kind of panel this thing. So what we could do, tell you what, just to add a little bit of spark to this, and it's not going to be everything I ever dreamt of, but if we grab all of this minus that section, there's no need to grab it. Let's see, is there anything ridiculous I don't want to grab? Shift D, and that looks pretty good. So I'll now separate that by selection, jump back over to object mode, And let's just hit A for all, bring that all back in, go back to object mode. Let's grab the panel and re-isolate that. See if there's anything that's going to mess us up when we do a solidify. Maybe I shouldn't have grabbed these inside pieces, but we'll just see how it looks. So let's solidify that. And we're going to solidify it up. And I want to bring the solidify just below the mirror. Okay, let's minimize some of these. These are getting ready to be a real pain in the neck. So that's fine. The solidify can be after that. Let's bring it up. Yeah, I think that's going to work out pretty nice. Even thickness, I will do high quality, and I will just simply apply that and / back in. So now that pops. Okay, so now we've got something kind of cool going on there. It's like a little panel clip piece, and we can do a boolean and stuff on that in just a minute. But if we jump back over, were those acting like vertex colors? That's fantastic. Okay, didn't know that. So let's grab this, and we'll grab this piece, and we will link those materials. Looks pretty good. And then we will grab the weapon here, and we will link that. Now, the barrel by itself could be linked with that, but I don't want to do that. I want to kind of change these colors manually. So let's go back over. Let's add a new, and I will add a coated glossy to the outside. So I'm going to apply that to this selected. And these materials are just done, man. You don't really have to do much. And you come in here, you can kind of see, let's right click and tab and see what it's made of. It's just diffuse, glossy, glossy, mix shader, a Fresnel. Very nice. Does that mean it's going to slightly glow in the dark for us? Let's find out. Let's go over here and turn the world properties all the way to zip. Am I using the world properties? Let's turn on see world. No, so that one's not glowing, but you can see the other parts are, so that's fantastic. And those are the parts we wanted to glow. And it look, see that extra light kind of coming out of there? If we're to take this into Blender 3.4.1 with the path guiding instead of the ray tracing, that's going to look insane. And then if we take it into 3.5 with the light tree, those indirect lights are going to be incredible. So that's what we're actually going to do at the end of this for a final. And you'll really need to, let me turn that off. You'll really need to kind of have your P's and Q's in order for that. And wow, look how that looks in cycles. You have to change some of that around a little bit because it's kind of what we're doing here. It looks a little bit faker here. That's the more realistic over in cycles. That actually looks really nice. A little too shiny, perhaps. Could change all that. So the red color isn't what I would want. Maybe more of a blackened, kind of burnt color, and I may make a custom color for that one. Let's see about that glossy coat. I want to make it look scorched. That is the general idea. I want to make it look like this metal has just been really hot. And so this one, let's add a new material to that. And we'll just put let's apply the coated glossy to that one as well. But I'm going to take the outside one for the perforated barrel, and we'll just create new. Let's come to the base color, pull that out, put in a ramp for color. And now let's pull this out and put in a gradient color. Pull it in, make it nice and neat. Let's MAPP for mapping node, vector. And point's fine for now. Pull out the vector, COOR, texture coordinate, drop that in. Let's come over here and play with the colors. And I'll just kind of bring this up to like a deeper dark red. And right now you can't see much because the gradient is not doing what we want. But let's / and bring this up, get a really good view of what's going on, and hopefully I don't have to separate the selection and do anything. But this is a little trick that I use. It's very, very fun. Pull out the normals and let's bump map that. Just bump it. Pull out the height, type in noise, Drop in your noise texture for height. Let's zoom in real good here. So we're going to bring the scale up to 30 for now. Bring the distortion up. Probably about 38, 39, 40. Definitely increase the detail. This does have the potential to kind of lag your computer a little bit, but it's definitely worth it. Now I'm going to bring the scale a little higher. Okay, so now we can start doing something else. Let's pull the location. Let me zoom in so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to pull the location out of the mapping, and I want to type in noise factor and give it its own noise node and just wait for that to load. Looks cool. So now we can play around with this like camouflage. And we should be able to rotate it kind of like that. And you can play with it on the Z. There we go. And now it's going to make it look like it's been the most massively hot, heavily torched. And we'll bring the scale up here. Make it look kind of flamed out. Very nice. Detail can go up. Excuse me there. I'm kind of trying to bring this up. Detail can go a little bit less on that one. Let's just put this one. Let's try 0. Just leave that one at 0. Now you can play around with this, and we don't have to overlay or mix it. This really is a good result, but we do want to switch from generated to object and put that into the vector. There it is. That's what I was looking for. Now we bring the Z. Let's see. Oh, it's going to bring it on the other side. We're just going to have to play with this a little bit. Right about there. And that's the trick of it, because you've got these two pieces here. So what I'm likely going to do is let's tab out. And this is the real one, right? So I want to just take the mirror out of there because it's kind of dragging a little too much. I don't want that. And now we should be able to play with this one and get what we want. All right, so I got the fix here. Let's just grab the Z and go highly negative, like that. There we go. That's going to give us what we want. We can / back out now. Let's see how much of that is actually protruding. It's going to be important. Let's make sure we grab both G and Y. You can bring them out. Something like that is definitely too far. G and Y, there we go. So that's not too bad. So we'll grab the perforation here. Yeah, no, yeah. Okay, that's what we got. And let's play around with that Z a little bit more. Trying to make it look a little bit more scorched. Now we can bring the metallic all the way up. Wait for it. Bring the roughness down just a touch. Give it a little bit more of a burned look. I think you could put 100% clear coat on it and then bring the roughness up a touch. And you kind of play around with that and see what is going to work best for you. But I really don't like the inside barrel being that color. Let's see if we can just link it to the other materials. Link that. Yeah, it looks a lot better. There we go. And so now you've got this kind of scorched look going on. And then really what to do with this centerpiece here. Now first let's isolate it. And I'll just come back with / because I want to do this boolean with it inside the realm of the mech. So we will use the circle. I'll bring this down to 5. See if this is going to look good or bad. Maybe just bring it up one more. Yeah, I think that's going to be the better option. And I'll go ahead and cut that piece in. Right click here and delete that piece. It's kind of hard to see, but now we have this. And so that gives it a little bit more of an interesting shape, and I can scale that. And let's just kind of check. Looks like it's pretty dead center and right where we need it. So I'll jump back over and Let's see, this piece could possibly take on the anodized metal. Nah, it doesn't look very good. So I'll just link it to this material for now. Could always change that. And I want to put some clips in here. So I'm going to bring, and let's see here. I actually want to bring this out. Yeah, so I'll take up one, and I'm going to throw a loop cut. See, am I actually in edit mode? So this one's a little bit more stubborn, so I'm just going to hit for the K tool, and I'll bring it as close to the center on the Z as possible. Click it, hit A, perfectly straight line, bring it down, press C, and then click and enter. And now I should have that loop perfect around the edges. A little more destructive, but it works. And so now I can just select these faces, go into wireframe, just select those, and we will delete those faces. Delete that face as well. Let's jump back over to solid. Looks good. Go ahead and mirror that to itself. Turn on clipping so it doesn't come out of shape. And now we can start cutting some clips in to one side, and it will cut them in for all sides. So let's go in back to the circle and just pick any spot, does not matter. And I will hold down Alt, and I want to bring that clip right about there, hold down Shift and left click it. And now let's come back out, and it should be there. Yeah, so it's not showing in the slash view for some reason, but don't freak out because it is there. And so I'll do the same thing down here. Go to circle, pull it out, bring it down to like 6. That seems to work nicely. Hold down Alt, rotate it till you get it just about where you want, Shift and left click. And now you got some cool clips in there. That looks pretty nice. And these clips can be Control J joint, and we can get a new material for those. Pull that off, and I will select this material for that. And it looks a little bit generic. It's got to change the roughness on that perhaps, but now it's multi-toned and pretty darn even. Not so sure about the feet, but we will take care of that in the next video. And so just for the fun of it, I could go ahead and render this thing out. I do want to grab the glow glass though and see if I could turn up the volume on that. And I'll turn the emission, well, the emission strength is way up, but I'm going to turn it up a little bit more. All right, so obviously I don't have the lighting turned up for the world, but I really didn't want that anyways. So I'm going to put the mouse, 3D cursor there, and I want to bring in a spotlight and kind of point it towards the back. Scale it just a touch. And let's take up the top view because I know that is not the direction I want it to face. Something like that. Take up third view here. That looks pretty cool. Now go back to the world, go to volume. I want to add in the volume scatter, and we'll just render this out with like 0.01. Should be good. Let's check that lighting out. And I'll grab the light itself. Let's come over and possibly gonna have to put it to something high, to like 50,000 or so it's shining on the back. And could bring that lighting up a little bit. I'm gonna go to render properties, take it back to supported perhaps. And from here I want to go down and kind of check out that contrast and see what's going on. All right, so now I'll render that and see how that one looks. Okay, there we go. So that's a little better. That's much closer. Obviously, you can see the cone, and we definitely don't want to see that, but there's your ominous robot sitting in the city. I'm going to add a couple more lights to, and then we will call it quits. I'll Shift D, G, and Z. Bring that one down. This light can be kind of, this one could be kind of pointed right about there. Actually, it'd probably be better if it's pointed about right there. And you'll get the general idea. So I want this kind of mist lighting coming back with volumetrics. And you can do this any way you want. But this is just one of many ways to do this. Let's see if I can shift click both of these. Kind of move these lights off camera a little bit so you can't actually see the cones. I think that'd be cool. And then we could change the color of the lighting. Something like light bluish. Doesn't matter. Do whatever. Do 2 different colors. And I'll turn this one up to 75,000 because volumetrics really just that absorption is really taking a lot out of it. So if we go ahead and render this one, that gives the look, and it shows off a lot of the detail that's there, and we really don't have to put too much detail. You can see how that already looks, so that's pretty cool. Didn't have to play with the feet too much. Still can. There's a lot still to be done to this, but you get the general idea, and I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to smash that subscribe, smash that like, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial lesson where we will finish this thing up, hopefully, and not have more than 7 videos. All right, thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.